Ooh, let's do it.
We're in here. Hey there, outliers. Niiamah Shang here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. I recognized right when I hit record that this giant smile just started like growing on my face, and I think it's because it's like we get a chance to continue to support the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity, and we're doing it here one conversation at a time, one outlier at a time, and really showcasing how each of us are bringing our own unique visions of the world and bringing it together in a way that can sustain change, growth, and business. Today, I have an amazing outlier with me. It's Jackson Calame. Jackson, I am so grateful that you made the time for today's conversation. It is wonderful to be in space with you. Thank you so much for this.
Dude, I wouldn't have missed this for the world. This is awesome. Niiamah, the way you lead, dude, like I would let's do this.
I am glad that you say the word lead because I think if we get the place to explore in this conversation, I want to actually spend more time exploring leadership. Because I realized like I started going down a path of business and it started getting a lot more into the mechanics and economics of things, and which I can do, but where things really feel expansive is in the leadership. So I think it'd be really fun to talk in and calibrate on that. Before we get to any of that, would you mind if I share a bit about like who you've been to me so far, and then give outliers a chance to get some context for you?
Hey, as open as the good, bad, and the ugly, man. Hit it all.
All right, cool. So Jackson, I don't know what I'm going to say yet, but here's what I get about you. What I get about you is that you have a. I'm going to put it this way here. I feel that you have casual excellence. And what I mean by that there is that like one of my first interactions with you was really it's casual excellence, but I also say like casual and like high integrity. So one of my first interactions with you was an email you sent back and you're like, hey, you use this language here. And I'm noticing that like the language that you used and what actually took place was not like 100% congruent, right? And it's like here goes my invitation to you, just be 100% congruent. If like whatever it is, just let your truth be your truth. And for me, that is like every time we interact, I feel that. I feel that. And I'll be honest, the first time I came out, I was like, oh, I'm really curious to see like how everything's gonna line up. At the same time, you're so I'm not, it's not laid back, but you're so in your body, you're so in the present, that it all works out. And that's where like the casual part comes in. All right, what do we got? You show us the feet. He has no shoes on. For everyone that cannot see this, he has no shoes on. I repeat, no shoes.
Oh my gosh.
So I like to play with that there because what it's done for me is that like it's built a lot of trust. What I get about you is that like you do things with high intention and you hold yourself to a high standard and high integrity, but you don't take yourself too seriously, and that feels
I'm
really
gonna
good.
I'm gonna hit one thing. You used the word that I love more. You said high intentionality, right? Because integrity, my friend, we are all saints and sinners.
Mm.
Like I do my best on the integrity thing, just like everybody else does, but I'm not the person who's like, oh, I care so much about integrity. It's like that person who says, "Oh, trust me, you can trust me." It's like that's a person who you're like, I don't know if I
Mm.
can trust that person.
Yep. Yeah.
We all are. Everybody on this earth has integrity at some level. There's some level of it, right? But you nailed it. It's that intentionality. I run a business called First Class Business. You would think I'm suit and tie, cufflinks all day, very proper with how things go, and that's not what first class means to me. There's an element to it. I like putting my suit and tie on, but I also want to be a human being. Like don't box yourself in. Live it all.
Well, this is great. Tell us more here. Then, could we start to get into some of the things that you run here? I want outliers to get a chance to see the game that you're playing here. Would you mind giving us some context about you and like let us know about like the business you created and the change you're making, the mission you're on?
Yeah. The context is hard to summarize, but I'll just flow with it. My name is Jackson Calame. I also go by Calame because it's easier. And it's a Swiss pronunciation, so somebody in my family changed it. And I want to know who it was. I don't know in heaven I'll get to learn. I want to know, did this person like was this the rebel who was running from the law?
Mm.
Or the person who like was butthurt about family stuff and decided to change it, or were they trying to reestablish the name for like a good reason? I tend to be that person who I don't want to create a formal judgment. I want to understand the broad perspective of what's possible. right? I want to know if, do I really know the truth or do I not? And that can scare a lot of people. But I'm a single father of four children. Um, I'm twice divorced. Gave my all to both marriages. Had my mistakes in both. It always takes two to tango. I strive really hard to honor the mothers of my children. Two, I'm not trying to collect more either. Like that process hurt a lot, and there's a lot that we learned through that reality. I learned so much about leadership and helping others, and I had this crazy dream or vision to when I was living in Uruguay, and I mean, some force slapped me in a very pivotal moment and said, Jackson, why don't you go home, take advantage of your schooling for once, learn about business, and help as many towns as you possibly can, like this one, throughout the world? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's smart. Here I was ready to go in the rice fields and make money and help this one little town because I was just so emotionally moved by what happened. And I had no business being in business, Niiamah. I had a 0.33 GPA. That's hard to do. Like you have to almost try to have a grade that bad.
Yeah, it's like
But
impressive in its own right, right.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was going on a lot of dates and playing a lot of pool and having a lot of fun. And I went to my girlfriend's classes more than I went to mine. I did not have all of my priorities straight. And I don't glorify that either. That set up its own set of series of consequences and realities. But I had a guest named John Whaley. The guy's absolutely phenomenal. I hope you host him someday. Just pure wisdom. And we were talking about the silver lining of life, and he called it the silver road. And I was like, oh, way to upgrade your adversities there. He recognized that those are the things that helped him. So long story short, went into startup. We were Y Combinator. That means we were invested in by Paul Buchheit, the inventor of Gmail. And Matt Cutts, the search director of Google. Later, I launched a SaaS company. We were burning cash left and right, didn't realize it. We were horrible CFOs. Took us 3 years. We were finally at 36,000 recurring monthly revenues of the restaurant software that was competing against OpenTable. OpenTable sold for 2.6 billion. They were absolutely terrified of us. We raised 100,000 on the Baylor Angel Network. Then I ended up on the Video Power marketing team, and Jake Larson of Video Power is the YouTube ad expert of the world. Put on stage by Ryan Dice, handpicked by the founder of YouTube to represent YouTube ads, running some of the most viral video ad campaigns of all time, working behind the scenes for Dr. Eric Berg, Michael Hyatt, T. Harv Eker, Billie Jean Marketing, Lewis Howes, John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur Fire, getting to see like how their operations worked, what types of people they worked with. Dr. Eric Berg, he had 106,000 subscribers, and I had to tell him your website is awful. And my radical candor comes with an intense amount of love that people aren't usually ready for. And that's one thing that I've had to learn to control and say, you know what, I need to meet people where they're at, not where I want them to be. But those leaders that can tell you, like every single one of those leaders I just named, super great at taking feedback, super ready to get to that next level. So Dr. Eric Berg went from a shoddy website with 106,000 subscribers, did not get mad at the 26-year-old Jackson who knew nothing about life, and took that feedback, implemented it. Look him up, guys. He's got 12 million subscribers now. There's a lot of value in being able to be open to feedback. And that's what First Class Business, Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos, Vision Pros Live, and our other entities, Able Health, is all about. Is let's be our best self and not scared to grow. My turn.
I love this. Yeah, no, I'm letting this all sink in here, Jackson. As you say this here, one of the things I get from you is the the component of that, like the radical candor of like and the yeah, I like this component of like a 26-year-old person coming in there, right? And this whole thing is called Outliers Edge. We look at the places where it's like, all right, hey, would you normally expect a 26-year-old to be in this conversation, to be working with these people in this way? And so it's
I
really
was
cool that
terrified. I was terrified.
like to the extent you can tell me. Well, actually, take me now, because that was a bit ago. That was part of the journey. Right now, I know that you keep growing. Like, what are you taking on right now that's terrifying you, or at least like, or where are the spaces where you still you go and you're like, oh, I have a sweaty palm when it comes to this. How are you
Oh,
putting
dude,
yourself in growth?
that's hilarious. I have sweaty palms right now.
Yeah.
Part of it is I need to turn my air conditioning down 1 degree. But it's I mean, going live and being in a podcast and all that, it gets easier, but it's still terrifying. I mean, when you care, when you legitimately care about, what your audience is going to feel, and you're thinking, okay, how can I deliver the best possible thing for the people that I'm working with? There's an element of imposter syndrome doesn't go away. Taylor Welch talked about this in relation to Michael Phelps, and he's projecting a little bit. I don't think either one of us know Michael. I know I don't know Michael Phelps, but he said when Michael Phelps is going to break the world record, again, I'm aging myself, right? When he's working on that, there's got to be an element, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. Like there's got to be some type of doubt there because he's never done it before. And so facing that and just like being willing to fly through that brick wall is incredibly important. While to me, also recognizing that I think most of those individuals understand that the concept of grind is incredibly toxic. Grinding yourself to death, right? Overdoing it, overworking out, acting like hustle culture is the way to be. Like if you're in the hood, you better hustle, like get the hell out. Move your ass. Like, you got to move. If you come from the product of divorced parents, like I had to look at life and say, if I want different realities in the statistics, I've got to be willing to do above average things to get myself out of that. So there is an important element of, again, intentionality and passion, determination, tenacity. But when we flip that switch to where we kind of lose sight of what's most important in life, to hustle just to do it and to, kind of pretend, fake it till you make it. I absolutely hate that quote. No, there's an authenticity that needs to exist there too.
But like, I'm feeling called right now as you're talking, Jackson, that you talked about being, I think you let words something like being slapped with like, let me go to business school and let me learn about business and do this for like hundreds of towns or do it for more towns. How, like, are you still really connected to that particular mission? How have things grown in that mission there? And I'm going to ask you some other things, but I want to just,
I love
it
that.
struck
That
me.
was a journey. I got my butt kicked on that journey a lot of times. And there's times where I wouldn't say I fully lost sight of it. But I got into network marketing and I sucked at that badly. I wasn't a very good leader for one. Two, I started to just see that, people were putting things on credit cards and then wouldn't fulfill and continue. And I felt responsible for that. I was like, I'm not going to sign people up for something they're going to give up on. Especially that it takes money from them. Like that's not okay to me. So, but there was a leader who said, your why should make you cry. And he told a great story about crossing from one skyscraper to the other on a 2x4 and how nobody would do that just to do it. Especially if the other building was on fire. He said, now imagine your baby's on the other building. You'd fly across it. Like you wouldn't hesitate to get across there and make sure they were saved. And your why should be that powerful, right? And so that really helped me start to think through, what are my whys? I knew one was when my nephew was born at night. When I was 9 years old, my nephew's born. I held him for like a split second, gave him back, but nobody knew I turned around. And I was thinking, I want to be a dad. What's a dad? I better start watching my brother-in-law because my dad wasn't around. I better start watching other dads. And then I started to expand on that with that gift when I was in Uruguay, right? This why concept came after finding my second why, which was helping all these towns. But who the heck am I to do that? I was just this young college dropout who couldn't afford college, didn't know how to get a real job, didn't know what I was going to do. Here comes my brother-in-law one day, sees me working my butt off in sales, and I was persistent, man. Like I would do things to help people and like get my deals. I was fairly charismatic, but I wasn't very good at just like the sales tactics and framework and stuff. But my brother-in-law says, Jackson, like you should get into marketing. And I remember being so crushed with overwhelm and saying and thinking and I said, I was like, dude, I don't even have a degree. Like, how the heck do you get into that? And he's like, just start reading marketing magazines and start listening to like podcasts or something. I don't even think he said podcasts. I mean, he might have said like look stuff up on the internet. But I swallowed the fear and I took like tiptoes into finding out stuff. And then I was like, oh, handing water bottles at the club, that's how I get most of my deals and get referrals and towels. Like that's marketing. I didn't know that. Here I'm going to banks, handing out VIP guest passes. Nobody else in the company was doing that. I was going and doing that, bringing in droves of employees at a time And I went to Gourmet Burger Grill, and I'm like talking to the owner of that restaurant just because it was kind of fun. And I was like, hey, have you ever thought about advertising at Lifetime Fitness? My GM got a massive paycheck for that advertising thing, and he gave me a high five. I love him to death. Rest in peace, Jaime, right? But he, I didn't get any compensation out of it, and it didn't move my own personal life forward with the business. But I began to realize I just really loved helping people find new things. And that's what marketing and that's what sales is all about, things that will improve their life. So all of that, again, I'm burying that vision. Like, well, Jackson, how the heck does this relate, right? To you helping many towns. I knew it was there, but I was scared of it, man. Like, I don't want to go tell people that. They're going to be like, who the heck are you to do this? And then one of my friends, right? So here I'm on Facebook years ago, and this kid goes, hey, when are you going to give up on all this washed up, watered down, discount Tony Robbins bullcrap? Oh man, that crushed me. I was mad. I felt defeated. I blocked this individual knowing, and I was like, man, I don't want
I
that
can
in my.
feel you right now feeling that right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was it. I want to remember what that feels like as a leader because I want to know, I want people to know, that I am very human too, right? And nowadays I can get that type of feedback. One, I know that those people are not my friends. They're not, I don't need them in my inner circle. Two, I still can use that feedback to realize I can still get better. I can still move my mountains. I still got more to do. My formulas are not done. They're still going. I have no ego attached to where I'm at and what I'm doing. I know that I can continue to improve upon whatever it is, but it no longer creates that deflation. But I do not want to forget how painful that was because when I see other leaders cower in pain or delay their missions and their visions or put things off, I know the amount of people. I don't know the full amount. I know that there are people out there who have died and passed away that could not benefit from the gift that I was meant to build with oportunidades de trabajo para Latinos, with the opportunities for Latinos. I know that every day that I rest on my laurels or I sit back or I decide not to dive into what I meant to do with that, that there's people out there who are not going to get access to that. And is that okay? Yes, it is okay. I can get back on my horse. I can say, you know what? I can forgive myself for that now instantly, move back into drive position and say, okay, today's a new day. This hour's a new hour. This minute's a new minute. Let me get right back into the game and start building because I know that's my calling and it does not matter if anybody believes in me or not. I know that's what I'm called to do and I'm going to do it.
So yeah, I got to ask some questions here. I realize like as you're speaking, you are you're here right now, you're in the present, and you're actually speaking around something that is uh, a place I've been trying to find some clarity over the last few probably months, if not years, right? And I think this is the us as outliers. I'll speak about this overall, but then I'm going to actually ask you my question, and I'll be upfront that it is a question for me. But I think outliers out here also have this, and we're driven by something, right? You ended this with talking about a calling right here, right? And a lot of us are looking to see how do we answer our calling while also being able to fund our life and fund the calling, right?
Yeah.
And that I think that's part of why I asked that question about like how did that continue to tie in? Because you went and you found a way to fund doing more from it. Here's the question I have, and I realize that there's a bit of a disconnect. So when you think of yourself as a leader, and you think of yourself as a business owner or or an entrepreneur, like in that context, like what where would you say are the distinctions for you? Because I recognize for me, I'm like I am leadership. When you talk about being a leader, every part of me is like yes. And at the same time,
Yeah.
I know that you own multiple businesses, and I'm really curious here. I'm realizing that like I'm on two. I'm currently feeling them or experiencing that as
Yeah.
two different things, and being like, well, if I'm doing business, then it should be this way, and if I'm leading, then this is when I can talk about my big mission or my calling, and so on and so forth. I'm really curious about how you navigate it, how you see that differently. There's a gap in my mind, and I feel like you're
I think I
walking
can
it
bridge it
dimensions.
instantly. I think I
Thank
can
you.
bridge it instantly. You ready for all of us?
I'm going to take this
One
in.
time there was a reporter who said, LeBron, Shut up and dribble. That reporter's career is toast. She didn't think LeBron had any business being in politics, being a community leader, talking outside of the basketball court. But LeBron recognized that his roles are only a subsector of his whole. His identity, right, is infinite. The intrinsic value we have within ourselves. And I learned that first through a book called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. David Sandler wrote one of the best chapters of all time. His first chapter is your R versus your I, your role versus your identity, and recognizing that we are going to fail in our roles. We're going to have problems and mistakes, whether it's as a father, whether it's as a businessman, whether it's as a basketball player, whether it's as a podcaster. It does not matter. We're going to have our ups and our downs, and we're going to have some extreme ups, we're going to have some extreme downs. And so if we position our value based on our role, our energy, our psyche, everything about us will go up and down. But if we remember that our identity is perfect, meaning our identity is invaluable. I know people don't like that word perfect, but namaste and aloha both mean my soul honors your soul. Niiamah, you're perfect the way you are. I'm perfect the way I am. For me, God knows exactly where we are. He did not screw up. He did not mess up. He is not going to mess up. And change is perfect too. So when we make positive changes and add to that and embrace that into our life, it only adds to our ability to continue to move. So I've been able to, so I learned the value of the chapter, but it wasn't until exercising and trying to say, you know what, I want to believe in that. I want to be able to honor myself, that even when I fail, I can appreciate the fact that I still matter and I'm still important, and so is everybody else. And watching people like LeBron James go through that, or realizing that, man, all these entrepreneurs, they want to win without any sacrifice. They want to win without any trials or errors, or they want to hide all of that. They want to think that the easy route is the way. Well, Nelson Mandela didn't have it easy. He had everything taken from him on his way to fulfill his calling and his purpose, and he didn't know exactly what it was. Ali did not have it easy on his path. Walt Disney failed many times and was an advertiser putting out junk ads before he ended up creating what he created with Disneyland. It was never the exact vision or path, but he stuck to it. And you can look at most successful individuals. Martin Luther King, he didn't have it easy. If you want to have it easy, I don't think you're going to get too far. But if you want to really create and achieve something, then there's a certain amount of work tenacity, there's a certain amount of adversity you're going to face, there's a certain amount of trial and error that you're going to have to go through. And if you look at it as something that you have to go through, then you're going to miss the boat. These are opportunities. And they may hurt, but they are opportunities. All resistance. I'm going to be careful with that. Fall off a cliff, you're done, right? That's different. Most of the resistance, the healthy resistance, that we can do so much more than we're willing to do. And we have all these apps and these people around us that coddle us into, hey, I see that you're tired. I see that you should take a break. You should take a break. Man, I'm in the 25th mile of my marathon. I need my headphones in. I don't need to hear the people who want me to slow down and take a break because they feel bad that it looks like I'm hurting. Of course I'm hurting. I'm in the 25th mile of my marathon. You know, I'm eating that up, and I am going to win this race for me. Not because I'm better than somebody else, but because that is what I want from my life. And I'm happy about that. People who aren't even running the marathon, they cannot comprehend being happy about that. You got to be in the marathon. You got to understand the value of the end goal. And hopefully you can learn to appreciate the journey. I wouldn't run a marathon that I wasn't going to enjoy.
So Jackson, would you mind if I share back a couple of things that
Please.
struck me from there? Um, so this actually goes back to the word integrity. So when I use integrity, I realized like I didn't define it, but for me, like my definition of integrity is I look at it from like the stand of integer because I'm a math guy at my own, and to me, an integer is a whole number. So when I think about integrity, it's about wholeness. And when you bring in like identity versus role, you really did actually like elevate a lot for me there. And yeah, the component here that I think is the way that I'm interpreting that is, or like the way that I choose to take it in is the identity. The identity is above everything else. And so in the role might be what you're playing in that moment. Like right now, I'm hosting a podcast, you
Yeah.
know. In a little bit, I might go and lead a group call. A little bit later on, I might go spend some time with my daughter and help her like eat lunch, you know. And each of
Yes.
those different things, the role is shifting, but the identity, my identity, is the place that I get a chance to play in. So, and I really appreciate that because I'm going to call in something here, which is in confusing the role with the identity. That's where things I think get all murked up. I'm like, I'm a movement leader. That's my identity. You
Yeah.
know, like I might be in the business right now, and there may be things I'm doing as a business owner or entrepreneur, but the identity can still stay the same. And
Yeah.
like
Yes.
let's jam with that really quickly first here because I think that especially with us outliers here, we're multi-talented, multi-dimensional. Like I love the fact that you have multiple businesses that are all working forward and moving things forward here. And there's the way that we experience things and the way that, like you said, almost at the end there, where it's like even good-natured, good-intended people like accidentally try and stop us from finishing the marathon right at the 25th mile, right?
Yes.
And so like that component of going back to identity beyond the multiple roles or the multiple things that we've done in life really feels like a cool place to anchor. Let me just get your thoughts on some of that.
Absolutely. So number one, one of my roles is as a son of God.
Mm.
It's oftentimes that I want to say like that's my identity, and it's still one of my roles though. My identity again, it goes back to that intrinsic value. There's a perfect nature there that we all have within us. It's not about me being better than anybody else and saying I have that you don't. No, we all have it. Just some people can't recognize it. Some people can't align with that, and that's okay. You'll notice too a major tone shift, right? And that's something that some people can't grasp either. It's like, oh man, I can have multiple tones. I can have multiple cadences. When I hold a baby, I got no reason to yell, right? I got no reason to hype. You got me all inspired and jazzed up. I don't do this on my podcast. This is not my style. It's not how I do. But it's not my style in the moment, right? When we can recognize too the gift of what is the moment call for, right? And being willing to follow, to me, that spirit of knowing like, okay, this is what this moment calls for. I think music has helped me a lot with that. There's crescendos, there's silence at times, there's intensity, there's so many flips. Why am I sharing that? A lot of business owners box their people in. They don't want the passion and the intensity, or they always want the passion and the intensity. They want people to show up in almost one fashion, which is basically another way of saying robotically. And we are not designed for that. I have a great friend of many years, and we've been trying to do business for a long time. And I'm in the process, this is reflected to me often by people who don't get this. They said, in evaluating your work and communication style, I can see that it isn't compatible with the way that I work, right? And again, I love this individual. They're a fantastic leader, and I can understand that we're not meant to work. I fully get that when somebody's saying that, because guess what? Fourth quarter Jackson is not first quarter Jackson. Fourth quarter Jackson down by 20 is not fourth quarter Jackson up by 20, right? There's a different level of intensity and a different level of passion that comes out in different moments of life. And as leaders, if we are so sensitive, right, that we cannot anticipate or we cannot receive an employee who comes to us that is breaking down and crying, right? Or an employee who comes in and you're so mean and you did send this email and you realize they don't have the communication skills that you do. They maybe have judged your email and say, you get a text message from your spouse and it says, "Where were you last night?" Like so many people put that tone on a text message and they ruin their relationships. When in reality, that spouse's intention may have been to say, "Where were you last night?" Like they may have just been concerned, not accusing you. And so we are awful communicators as human beings. And it has a lot to do with our inability to tolerate or embrace or choose to allow people to express their feelings and emotions. And really all of that comes back to not boxing ourselves into a role, but allowing our identity to be present as part of that role, and recognizing that as a role, right? If our role involves interacting with another human being, we also have to gain over time the wisdom of how to meet that person. And Niiamah, I've got to give you massive credit, because this interview would not be possible the way that it is had you not helped me understand your healthy boundaries up front, because of your wisdom of knowing how to guide a guest and your ability to invite me to really dive in deep. This would not be possible if I had not seen the strength of your leadership. So everybody that's listening, you all have the power to learn how to do that. You got to turn to somebody like Niiamah and say, how do you do that? Just ask for help. That's what I do every day with my team, whether they're business owners or janitors. I don't care what your role is. If I need some help and I want some insight and perspective, like, I know your identity is so valuable that you probably have the answer buried within you somewhere, and I'm going to ask.
Jackson, as you say this here, like, uh, what strikes me is that component of the asking. You know, um, I want to give space to this here because I actually realized part of the reason why I started asking you about the role and identity portion and asking you about the leadership and such is because a part of me does not necessarily believe that most people can give an answer that I can actually receive. I think everyone can answer, you know, but I think it also speaks to you in the way that you create your response where there's enough space. I get there's enough space to bring just about anything in, and you will treat it in a genuine way. You treat it in a genuine way. Let me ask you here, you can pick one of your businesses right here. If you can take us to a time, tell us a story here about a time where a client or an employee came to you and you had to actually navigate that conversation, like they were in that space of potentially pushing back or being upset. Like, how, take me to one instance of it, and help me see how you chose to navigate through that.
Ooh, man, so many good, powerful lessons on that. I had a team member. We were in a period of sacrifice, extreme sacrifice as a startup. This is first class business. We'll cross the 3 year mark in September. It was a little over a year ago, year to 2 years. I'll do that range. And we were all doing what we could to understand. I'm very open with my team members. I don't share who makes what out of them. They can share it, but I share what I make. And I share why I make what I make. And I'm always looking at how can I upgrade where they're at too. And so here we were in a period of time where I wasn't taking a salary a lot, and they knew it, and they were all taking pay cuts as well. And so everybody's grinding to, the grind, the hustle was real. We were facing some serious challenges. And so we're all doing what we need to in order to survive this season of famine, and go through these challenges that were there. I'm taking constant inventory of, what can I do better, God? How can I be there for my team and for my family on this and be the provider I need to be? And there was some turmoil within the team, because when you're going through that, everybody's trying to survive and everybody's trying to do things. So I had a young executive on a team who heard an executive conversation that she was supposed to be in on, but she misinterpreted it. And she went and told some individuals that they might get their paychecks. And that was never going to be the case. But out of those individuals, one quit immediately. He just bolted. He was already having some stuff with us, and a little bit of friction. He reminded me of a very young version of myself, which is wonderful because he was tenacious, but he's also difficult to sell. And that was me. And so he leaves, doesn't ask questions. Love him to death. I hope our friendship's still intact. I won't project that on him. Another one, decided to start quiet quitting. And then the third one, he chose to take sacrifices that put him in a position to where a week later, when we talked about the exit strategy, he did not have money to put food on the table for his children. I don't think anybody can understand how awful that makes you feel as a leader. And obviously there's, and I was like, I would have never asked anybody to take that level of sacrifice, ever. And it pained me that I put him in a position to where he felt the need to do that or called to do that. And it made me realize, so I had to have a conversation with everybody on the team, like, please don't you ever, nobody in this team should sacrifice more than I sacrifice. This is my vision and my dream, and I appreciate how much you guys build it. But please don't ever put yourself in this situation. And I got him, of course, the money they needed, and gave him a little bit more. Not because the money was growing on trees. I mean, I just had to find a way to get whatever we needed to bridge this gap, because I'm not going to leave my people in that situation. And him and I had to talk too about the healthy boundaries and the realities of that. And I shouldn't say had to, but he gave me the honor of doing that. We had an hour and a half exit conversation, and fast forward 3 months, and him and the one who quiet quit came back a few months later asking, hey, can we come back? No, we really miss this. And I had new executives on the team. And I had executives who were now doing their roles better than they had been doing their roles, like way better. And I said, you guys can come back, but you have to start at the bottom. Again, it's not my choice. And if you're not doing the things that you need to, if you're not consistent and reliable, like we had in the past, then they're going to let you go. And I'm not going to defend you on that. And neither one of them were in a position to where they could take that financial cut. And I don't think they could I think it would be a very hard thing to settle with ego and pride. Like, how do you come back into that situation? And I do hope that at some point they do decide to come back, because we would embrace them with open arms. I mean, we're like a family, and this entity, and I care deeply about the people on our team. They both have equity in this company. One of them has, so I'm gonna leave it where it is. I'm not gonna say what that number is at, but both of them have equity. And my hope is that we continue to get ourselves in a position where, so here we are with that venture, combined with that. We got this program called Opportunity for Latinos. It's taken me 14 years to get to 700 members, Niiamah. Like, that's not a very big thing. And it's a ghost town. It was a ghost town. 600 members is a complete ghost town. I had to shut it down several times for personal reasons. Chose to, said, I'm not ready for this yet. I'm not the leader who I need to be for this. Well, on Tuesday of this week, my team interviewed a YouTube influencer who is so like blown away by what the team has built. And it's all Latino run now. Like, he's never met me. He met the team. He gets to see what they're up to. He has 900,000 subscribers on his English learning channel. And he is going to be releasing these episodes within a few days on his platform. And I have no idea what's going to happen. Will like one person join? Will 100,000 people join? Like, I've never had that happen before. But we have to be able to go through the difficult realities. And for me, for the way I want to do things, if I am not honoring God with my actions, right? If I am not willing to recognize where I still fall short, and then repent of that, move in towards, I can repent immediately. God's forgiveness can be immediate. I need to move right back into being my best self and just showing up for people. I have found that as I align with that, he continues to remove barriers from us, give us new milestones. But if God brings a massive barrier into my life tomorrow, come what may and love it, right? I will accept his will on that regard. I don't control the external. I could make this field across the street for me. If that has crops in it and a tornado comes and wipes them out, a farmer could do nothing about that. Maybe he could diversify his income, right? So he can look at what else he could do. But there are things that happen that we cannot control, but we can learn to embrace and accept and be grateful for, knowing that he's got a better vision for what we need than we do. So that's my whole truth on that is, and when I hear you share wisdom, if it aligns with the wisdom I have, I can instantly appreciate and reinforce that. If you share something that I feel is wise, and I'm like, man, that might help me, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to go meditate on it. I'm going to go talk about that with my God and find, like, is this for me? Is this aligned with everything that I'm up to? Like that's where I don't know how to do life as a single father of four that doesn't have a whole lot of time with my kids. Like, how do you know which one to show up for and which moment, if they all have different struggles and different needs and I've got a limited amount of time with them, right? The only way I know is like, well, I don't know how to do it. So I just better ask God, because, and the same thing is true. I've learned with everything in life is if I lean on my own understanding, I'm probably going to screw it up. If I stay open with him, I might get the formula right. But at least I did what I know I should.
Well, I appreciate this, Jackson. Thank you for like really just letting us see, right? Um, the what I appreciate here is the components of reality, right? Mixed in with optimism, with one step forward, one step in front of the other, and coming at things with high intentionality. Like I hear the intention behind it. I hear the intention between what you do, and it's really awesome at this moment here to hear how people have navigated the struggles, because I get like I see how real it is, and it really it means a lot. I appreciate that you didn't sugarcoat it and you just took us to it.
No
Yeah,
way.
like sugarcoat, not my style. We're gonna do this. We're gonna start wrapping up the conversation here. Where I want to go here is just firstly, I want to know what's excited you, right? So in the work you're doing right now, like what projects are you taking on? Which ways are you growing? Like what's really exciting you right now? And let's start there.
We are breaking the barriers down of how limiting people are with their VAs. I call it virtual abuse, man. It's disgusting. It's awful what I see as far as their relationships and the way that people and so let me go into the highlight of that though. Louisa, huge shout out to Louisa. She's been with us less than 2 months. Right? She had never been in the podcast world. She's never worked in the digital marketing world whatsoever. Right? She showed us loving, patient, persistent, consistent, reliable. Like she showed us, she came all out with that, with the best demeanor. Louisa did the interview with Kike Ingles. Louisa, it was her first podcast interview. Can you imagine that? Your first podcast interview takes place in less than 1.5 months. You may have never even seen a podcast in your life before, and you're interviewing an influencer with 900,000 followers. We have to stop limiting the virtual assistants out there. We need to train them and care for them and make sure that they know that we actually care about their lives and want them to succeed. This is the coolest thing ever. And it's one example of many. And as we continue to grow that, I just hope that, if anybody needs to work with digital ambassadors or virtual assistants, come and ask us about that. But know that we don't just let you work with anybody. We do not allow you to come in with your virtual abusive habits. We need to know that you are a fantastic leader and you're going to take care of our people. And if you're going to come and look out for our people and you're going to create win-win-win victories, then come in droves. Come work with us. Let's do this. But if I can take one virtual assistant who's never had him that doesn't speak English, right, at all, and I can help them understand how to host somebody of 900,000 because I've got an amazing team who does it. I didn't even have to really do most of it because I know people are awesome. Let's be awesome.
I love that last part there. I know people are awesome. Like I get that. I get that. And it's making me think about my team, the different opportunities that are there. I like podcasting, but my vision is like a podcast network, and where I'm not even like I'm like I just want people to have the opportunity to do this. This we can do. This is cool, But I'm like, why can't more people do this? And the answer,
They
like
can.
they can. That's it.
They want.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. And that's fun for me as a leader to now look and see like how can I build the infrastructure? How can I actually make sure that they're equipped to be successful with that? Well,
Yeah.
thanks for that. There, that's incredibly exciting. It's motivated me in many different ways. Let's wrap up this conversation with two more questions. So the first question here is: you've given us a lot of outsights, a lot of your stories and taking us through your journeys. I love to like just check in with every person that comes in here to see like what is something that you gained, what is something that you learned, what's something that you're taking away from this conversation here. And it could be nothing. That like just know that like you're allowed to have that too. But I'm
No,
really
the
curious.
opposite. The opposite. That's the reality most people can't see is the abundance that I'm going to be reflecting on this for years. Like there's so much that I can gain out of every single experience that I have. You happen to give me gifts of wisdom that are super super rare, so it makes it easy. It's people, they think about the value of the book, right? Dr. Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive, stays as my mouse pad because I still keep consuming this. But I know that the true well of depth of knowledge is Peter Drucker, right? It's getting in touch with him, and also again taking these concepts up with God. But when I'm with you, and I went on to that thing to watch the panel the other day, not because I needed to know whatever was going on with the panel, but because I saw Alex and Filippo and you were on that panel, and I was like, oh, I have time for this, but I am not going to miss this. All right, and so I pull it up and watch. So the way you pre-framed this show, like I was like, oh my gosh, I can do so much better on mine now that I know this. I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm not mad. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, I'm horrible at this, like so many leaders. No, I'm saying, wow, this is fantastic. Now I can level up my own game. So
I
there,
love it.
I can go back and listen to any segment that came out of this and learn from both of ourselves and use it for moving myself forward. But I'll only do that if I am directed by the Spirit to do so. If not, I'm
I
gonna keep
love that.
moving.
So I have two more questions for you. We're coming right at the top of the hour, so I want to make sure I don't want to rush, but I want to make sure that they're both here, right? The first thing here is you've been very generous with your experience and such, and I want to see, like, for anyone else who is looking for that first class experience, anyone else that is looking to spend time with someone that's in such high intentionality, and is just like drawn into the things that like your soul is calling you to do. What's the best way for them to move forward with you?
So passionpro.org for people who are looking for that purpose and passion. Firstclassbusiness.io, right? That's our brand. We have a webinar on there. So these are separate things, right? We got a webinar on there for Power Launch. I poured my heart and soul into building people the path that took me 14 years to figure out. I highly recommend watching that webinar. At the end, there's an offer. Just use Niiamah's link because I'm going to give them a link. You get absolutely free access to everything that we've built, our entire infrastructure for clients. My hope is that you solopreneurs don't screw that up. I could never do it alone. I never figured that out. I've never met a solopreneur who is actually winning, just people who lie about it. You got to have a team for that type of a program. And so know that you're seeing the infrastructure so you know what we can do, or so you can give it to your own team to use. But don't try to do that alone. Or Vision Pros Live. If you want to come and share your vision with me, come and apply, be a guest on our show. I'm happy to meet you where you are at, and then let's go from there.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Jackson. Last question for you here today is what I call the time capsule question. And it goes like this.
I gotta
If you
run.
then we'll leave
I
it,
gotta
we'll leave it
run.
at that.
Forget
You
it.
got we
Send it to
will
me. I'll
we
record a
will
loom for it, and we'll get
no,
this.
no, we're good. We're good. Just know that I'm grateful for you. Thank you for taking the time in for today's conversation. I appreciate you bringing all of you to the conversation, and just keep being who you are because it's really shining through.
Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, until
Take
soon.
care.
Be well.